Well, Dain, Dain, I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
It's been really cool to meet you. I feel like I came across you on Instagram, saw your carousels, and you put your location in the top of your carousel. And I was like, oh, he's in Sydney. He's near me. And so immediately I was like, oh, we have to catch up.
Connect.
It's like when you meet another Aussie who is like, I don't know, just doing cool stuff. It's like, cool, we have to
hang out.
We have to become friends.
It's such a small place because I think Australia is so like, everyone kind of knows everyone. So it's like if they're local, you're like, we got to hang out.
We got to hang.
There's no other choice.
I know. And I use the podcast selfishly to make friends. I feel like you maybe do the same with your podcast.
I did the exact same thing. I'm like, I want to be friends with, Josh Sparks. Let him get on the pod and we can hang out and we can jam out. And now we're actually friends. So it's great.
It's perfect. It's the best.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited today because everything you share on Instagram is so valuable. You are kind of the king of carousels, I would say. That's my personal view.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it.
And I really want to talk about personal brand. I want to talk about how you've grown your following. I want to talk about all the things, Instagram branding, because you just are a whiz at all of everything to do with brand. But first, give us a quick rundown of what do you do and how did you kind of get to where you are now?
It's a great question. I think, I always talk about how, when things started, I kind of had an ambiguous ambition. Mm-hmm. And that was at the onset. I was like, oh, I want to create an agency one day. That'd be cool. Yeah. That might be my thing. And I had a background in design. I had a background in marketing, and I dabbled with content creation, and I wanted to start a pod back then and everything else. But yeah, to keep it simple, I went to an event in Brisbane in 2019 who Gary Vee spoke on stage. And it was one of those events where it was back-to-back speakers. It was a pitch marathon. Everyone was pretty exhausted at the end, and there was thousands of people in the room. And Gary just came out at the end, and the first thing he said is, I'm not here to sell you anything. And my ears pricked up, and he just continued to do Q&A for 2 hours. And at the very end, he basically said, you don't need to buy these boot camps and courses. You just need to go start. And I was like, well, I'm broke. I can't afford these courses anyways. I guess my only option is to just start. So on the drive home, I chat to my fiance, Ellie, and I said, look, I'm going to start an agency. Just kind of came out of my mouth, and she's like, sounds fun. And then we proceeded to use our grocery money to pay for software. And I mass DM'd a bunch of friends that night, who needs a logo, who needs graphic design or a business card. And I got a couple of $50, $20 jobs and so on, but nothing really miraculous happened in my community. But then I started to pay attention to who makes content about my industry online. And that's where I found Chris Do, Michael Janda, and a few others. And I loved their content. And I was like, well, I could make content like this, teaching what I know. And I just started to make back then, which was quite new on Instagram, which was the carousel format, which is where you post up to 10 slides in a row and you can swipe through it. And some of these people were using it for educational. As you slide through it, you're kind of reading pages of a book. And I started making that every single day religiously for months. But over the course of 6 weeks, that generated enough leads that I didn't need friends and family leads anymore. And I started to make more money than my full-time job. Wow. And then I quit my job on the 6th week. And as terrified as I was then, went all in. And then since then, for the last coming up to 5 years, I've just been consistently posting content as our main lead generator. And on the back end of that, built an agency. And we're coming up to 27 people on the team now. So
amazing.
Yeah. So what was initially just content creation and a couple of quick design jobs turned into, doing a rebrand for Culture Kings. We're in the midst of rebranding Nutrition Warehouse right now.
Yeah.
And, we don't just focus on big brands. Most of our work is, lean startups through to mid-sized businesses. And it's just, we build brand strategy, brand identity design, we build websites, we do strategy, and we build vocabulary systems, marketing systems, and design systems for companies and people. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
How did you, when you said, I'm going to start an agency, did you imagine it would be what it is today?
I mean, people joke about me as a bit of a bull in a china shop. I'll have an idea and I'll creatively just run towards it. Yeah. I think there's entrepreneurs that are more calculated and precise and methodical than me. I think I just thought it was at the time a fun idea. I didn't really have a picture of it. I just knew I could run an agency, I could sell, I could make content, I could talk to business owners. And I just decided to lean into my sales acumen at the very early stages. And then where I lacked in design capability, I just started to hire people. Or if I lacked in marketing, I'd hire people to kind of fill in the blanks. And even up until now, like predominantly my time is spent in strategic workshops with the clients, figuring out their problems, or, networking to meet people to bring them on board. But yeah, it's become clearer as we've gone. And I think my ethos, and I talk about this in the book, and it's talking about how you can't have a perfect picture in the beginning. It's like you're looking at a map from 10,000 feet and it's all blurry. And it's not until you start to creep closer to the map that it starts to make visual sense, or it starts to resonate. So for me, I think there's so much beauty in running toward a goal with ambiguity, and it gets clearer over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important, because people who listen to our podcast, people who follow me, are creative service providers. So a lot of agency owners, graphic designers, web designers, copywriters. And I think sometimes we want the answers to questions that we shouldn't even be asking yet.
True.
And so we kind of think, I need a plan for X, Y, and Z, but it's like, that's probably a while away yet. So let's just do the stuff and let's optimize a little bit later. And I think people get trapped in that optimization stage when really what they need to do is just launch and figure it out.
Totally. I think, one of my favorite quotes is from David Ogilvy, and he says, if you start a business with a logo, you started too late. And I love that because he's just talking about how like you just got to get out there and go for it. And for me, I sit down with people in rooms all the time, particularly around personal brands, and they're like, I need the perfect roadmap before I start. I need to know my niche. I need to know my target audience. I need to know my products. I need to da-da-da-da. And they always say, I need a 6-month plan. And I say, pretty stone-faced, you don't need a 6-month plan. You need 6 1-month plans, because you need to come up with a 30-day plan, execute, make all the mistakes, learn from them, adapt, and then month 2, almost start all over again. And it's like if you think about business as these short-term sprints, it does take the pressure off, because the perfect plan doesn't exist. And I think that even if you had the perfect 6-month plan, you're going to get a month in and realize that the plan doesn't work anyway.
Yeah.
So there's so much, especially in today's climate with the market. The market's shifting so much, social's shifting so much, buyers' behavior is shifting so aggressively. I think you have to be more nimble, and you have to kind of look at the shorthand of what can I do in 30 days? Let's just focus on that. And if I'm early days, can I go to friends and family? Can I produce some C-grade content and generate attention and start there, and then turn my C-grade content into B-grade, into A-grade, and so on.
Yeah.
I think it's just progress over perfection, as cliche as it sounds, is what's worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like for you started your business not necessarily as thinking you're a designer. You sounded like you started your business thinking, I'm going to start this as an entrepreneur, as a business owner who sells design.
Yeah, I think a lot of designers, and accurately so, they think that they're talking to a business owner and talking about solving their design problem. Yeah. I quickly realized that when you're talking to a business owner, they don't look at design the same way a designer does in most cases. You need to learn how to speak business language. And to a business owner, usually what's in their head is, how do I get more leads? How do I close deals? How do I pay the bills? How do I not go bust? How do I, my taxes coming up? All right. They're thinking about their financial priorities. They're thinking about their pressing matters inside their business. And what I was able to do is understand that there's what you think the client needs, and then there's what they want. Yeah. So when a business owner gets on a call with me, they're usually like, I need a logo. And I'm like, okay, cool. What else are you struggling with? Oh, we're struggling with leads. Our website doesn't convert. Our ads aren't performing. You create a long list, and then you're like, it sounds like you have a business problem here. Sure, design's going to solve that. But this is where I think the designers can make a lot more money, is if they learn how to unpack a business owner's actual problem and then build a bridge back to design. So for us, it starts off with what strategy is. And strategy is like, well, who are you talking to? A designer should do this anyway. Who's your target market? How do you speak to them? How do you want them to feel about you? What's the visual personification of what the reaction is that you want? And how do you engineer the design to get that reaction? And I think that so oftentimes designers think that, they can kind of shorthand that conversation and go straight to the design. But I think if you spend a bit more time in strategy, the business owners love that, because they get a bit more clarity around how they should operate. Then you create their vocab and their communication system, and then you design on top of that. Like, we kind of look at design as it has a job to do, But if you don't know what the job is and what the strategy is and how that strategy must be communicated, then is the design even effective in the first place?
Totally.
So when we have these conversations with a business owner, they're like, oh, design is just more communication. And it's about positioning and perception and differentiation and competitiveness with our, companies that we're going toe to toe with. And I think if you can help people realize that, they're happy to throw money at you for a logo.
Yeah, I think that definition of going, how can we have a better conversation with our prospects and how can we actually ask them better questions so that they go, oh man, they actually know what they're talking about. And potentially this design thing is not just aesthetic and what it looks like, but actually this is going to drive our business objectives. And I always say that the best communicator wins. And so it's like your design is a huge piece of your communication because so much of our communication happens visually. And so I think when we can tap into that, we're having a different conversation with a different sales conversation and therefore a different price point can be presented, right?
And that's how you can increase your price because I think if a business owner looks at you as a designer, they're going to treat you like one.
Yeah.
If they look at you as a business partner, they'll respect that you have design acumen, but then they'll listen to your business tactics. And I think this is where I was able to do very well because we sell a lot of design. But to get to design, we talk a lot about what is your strategy? Who are you targeting? Everybody. Well, you can't target everyone. Targeting everyone means you're targeting no one.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do we target people? And then you go through these exercises. So I think, Chris Doe's done a great job of this. He's created an online community where designers can go to and learn how to get these skill sets. And I think there are communities out there that people can learn this stuff. But I think designers, if you can start to learn how a business owner thinks and operates and speak to them with what they think they want, then link that back to, I know they need design support, but let me solve their problem the way they see it first. And then build a bridge and educate them on, okay, now let's get to design and make sure that strategy and that communication works.
Yeah. And I think that I love that language of building the bridge from, well, where are they right now? What do they need? What do they want?
Yeah.
And what's their frustrations? What's keeping them up at night? What's the challenge? And then going, okay, well, design is part of that solution, but we're probably also going to consider X, Y, and Z as part of that because of these needs and challenges that you have.
Yeah, I kind of see design as solving a communication problem. It's a visual way of portraying what a company's trying to say.
Yeah. And
I think, we're in the industry of trying to teach business owners the power of creativity and why they need it and how it works for them. Because usually the question for a business owner is like, what's the ROI? What if I just keep the logo I have?
Yeah.
And then it's just unpacking that and making sure that they can actually understand that it's not ROI generating, it's impression generating. Branding is impression management. What's your impression? Is it good or bad? If you have a bad reputation in your family, how are your family going to treat you? If you have a great reputation in your family and community, how are they going to treat you? Is your brand impression great or bad? And usually they're like, it's pretty average. I'm like, okay, but you're going toe to toe with these national competitors and they have wonderful branding. So what's to say that you can compete directly with them just by saying our product's better? It's not good enough. Your impression management's not strong enough.
Yeah.
So then they start to go, tell me about what, because I think when you say branding, people just immediately think of like colors, logo, fonts.
Yeah.
When you say, how are you managing your impressions? Business owners are like, pretty poorly. It's pretty inconsistent. Our website's out of date. We don't make content. I'm like, so you were saying to me that your impression management is not great? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's a branding problem.
It's costing you.
It's costing you. It's like, can you understand how that impacts your ROI? And I have them tell me, yeah, we probably don't convert as much. We probably don't get enough attention. And I'm like, if you had attention and you could convert and you could look more impressive and you had a great impression or a reputation, where's the money in that for you? They'll tell you, I think we could do X, Y, Z. And then we're like, that's the ROI because there's no standard ROI for design. It's independent on your industry, you as a vehicle driver for your business and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to copywriters, photographers, anyone selling a creative service.
Yeah.
It is all about, I think that's a big challenge a lot of people have is they're like, but ChatGPT can write my copy, so why should I engage you?
Sure.
Or Canva can design my stuff. Why should I engage you? And it becomes, we have to be having a better conversation. And I think that that's so powerful when we can go, cool. Sometimes creatives freak out about talking about ROI because they're like, I don't know how to manage, I don't know how to measure it. And I can't give you if you invest, it's like when someone builds their email list, it's like for every dollar you spend, you make 40.
Yeah.
Or probably more like 45 now. But it's like, we can't necessarily do that with our brand.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of like, and I don't know if you talked about this, but like if you show up at a job interview
Yeah.
and you look scruffy and your clothes haven't been washed and you kind of look a bit, you might be the most qualified for the role. You might be the best at what you do. But if what you're putting out there is not matching the competitors and not matching the quality that you have, they're kind of going to go, oh, well.
Totally. And I think there's a fast way to dismantle it. And we do this on sales calls. So like, anyone who's listening to this who's trying to figure out the ROI challenge, it's you get on a call and you warm up the client, you talk about, a meet and greet situation, you get them to tell you a bit about their business. And we usually open with a few questions like, hey, why did you reach out? Why now? Why is this a pressing matter for you? Have you done this before? Why do you think we might be a good fit for you? We get that out of the way until we kind of get into a place of rapport and a bit of trust. And then we say, look, if we might ask a few prying questions, is that okay? And they're like, sure. How many leads are you bringing into the company a week or a month? And let's just say they're like 20 a month. Yeah. Cool. Where are those leads coming from? 15 are coming from referrals, 4 are coming from SEO, 1's coming from Instagram. Yeah. Okay, great. Would you like that ratio to change? What do you mean? Well, do you want more referrals? Do you want more social media leads? Like, where do you want the leads to come from? Oh, we would like our content to generate leads. Okay, so you get 1 lead a month right now from Instagram on average. Yes. What's an average lead worth? $3,000. Okay, so if we do the math, you're making $3,000 a month because of Instagram. Correct. How much would you like to make a month because of Instagram? And you get these numbers, you just start to talk about like what they would like to happen. In the background, you're actually figuring out how much profit they have, whether they can afford you or not, in a clever way. And some people are uncomfortable with these numbers, but if you can get confident with asking the question, usually a business owner is happy to answer these questions if you tread carefully and you are respectful and you come across like you're trying to help them. So we try to dismantle their financial challenge. And then we start to go, okay, well, where does the brand live? How do you feel that the impression you're managing on your website is on a scale of 1 to 10? Oh, it's a 3. What about your social media? It's a 1. What about through referrals? Oh, it's a 10 because we have great relationships. So, okay, cool. So everywhere you're involved, you're doing great. But everywhere the brand's involved, it's not doing great. Am I right or wrong? And they're like, that's correct. So if they were all 10s, how many leads do you think that might generate? They might say 5 or 6. Okay, so if we can get 5 or 6 leads coming in from YouTube or Instagram, like wherever the brand lives, it might be retail, it might be billboards. Brand lives in so many places. Let's just say for argument's sake, it's Instagram. Then we're talking about, okay, well, 3 times 6, I'm terrible at math. What's that? That's 18. So it's like, if we could get 18 grand a month coming in from Instagram, you'd be pretty happy with that. Correct. How confident are you to go do that right now? Not very. How immediately would you like to start this? This is a very business conversation. And then you just ask questions like, okay, since the impressions are not great and you don't feel like you're managing them well, if let's just say I could give you a 10 out of 10 stellar logo, design kit, communication system, and so on, do you think that you'd be confident and capable of doing that? Totally. Okay, so then you calculate over the year, well, what's 18,000 a month over 12 months? And you go, over the next year, we can make north of 100,000 doing this together. So before you've even started to propose, you're talking big numbers. Yeah. The idea is you want to talk with the business owner about their biggest numbers. What are they currently bringing in total? And what are they wishing to bring in total? Then on the scheme of things, what's 10 grand for a logo? Yeah. So if you anchor the price really high and you start getting in and talking about big numbers, then by the time you get to your proposal, you remind them of their goals. Hey, we're trying to hit an extra 100 to 300K a year. You're currently around the vicinity of 1.5 million. We believe design could support with that through e-commerce and photography or what have you. Here's my price. All of a sudden, you're anchoring huge numbers. Your price looks minuscule. But if you don't have this conversation, that's where you get the price objection. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when they start shopping around because they're like, whoa, 10K, I wasn't expecting that. They don't know what they were expecting, but they weren't expecting 10K.
And if you ask them the question at the beginning, what's your budget? They're like, I don't know. What is it? What is it usually? So you can't have that conversation. You have to have this dismantling money conversation. And that seems to be how we do it.
And I love that you're leading that conversation. And it's kind of like I think a lot of creatives, they go into a discovery call and they don't even have a script.
Nope.
And so they're kind of like, what do you need?
Yeah. Tell me what you need. They don't usually know.
And it's like a shopping list. And then they kind of go, I need this. And they don't know they need a brand kit. They don't know that they need tone of voice. They don't know they need any, like you were talking about the vocab and communication system. They're like, oh no, I don't need that. I just need a logo. And then all of a sudden they're thinking, I just need this one thing.
Yeah. But that's because you're having potentially what we call a peer below peer conversation. So there's 3 tiers. There's above peer, peers in the middle, and below peers beneath. And oftentimes what I see happen is designers get on a call with a business person. The business person's like, this is some freelancer kid. And they kind of unfortunately look down on that person.
Yeah.
They're like, I run a company with 20, 30 people. This is just some freelancer. I'll throw $50 at them.
Yeah.
And then they throw 10 grand at me and I'm offended, right?
Yeah.
So then how do you get on a call as a designer and say, I'm actually not just a peer to peer with you, I'm above peer at this problem. Because if you can throw some questions at a customer that they're struggling to answer, what do they think of you as? Above peer. They're like, this person knows things I don't know. They're asking questions I can't answer confidently. They're starting to analyze my business and they're seeing you as intelligent. Because if you get on a call with a business owner and they're like, this person's very intelligent, they're asking me questions I'm struggling to answer, they're putting the numbers together. Because I'll get on a call and I'll turn around to a client and I say, okay, so you're between 1.5 and 2.3 million a year. They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, cool. So like, where do you want to get that to? So I divert from the discomfort straight into the positive. Like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
It sounds like a bit of trickery, but essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to position yourself as like, I know stuff you don't know, and I'm here to help you, and I've got the answers. Let's have a real honest business conversation. And they will appreciate you for it. And then we're like, we can get to design, but design is going to solve this problem. Then they're like, oh, I thought design was just going to tick a box. No, it's not about ticking a box. It's about actually solving your business problem. And then you show examples or you tell them a story about something that exists in the world that they know. It's like, well, look at Liquid Death. It's just water in a can. Like how did that brand blow up? It's not because the product's better. It's because they branded it to a market. Yeah. You can unpack it or dismantle it. But I think, if you can get comfortable having these deep conversations by asking what we call, instead of asking closing questions, you asked open-ended questions. An open-ended question is, what made you reach out? Yeah. Then they fill in a blank. Tell me a bit more about how you think we can help you. Then you're putting them in the position to talk. Because I think if you're talking 80% of the time and they're talking 20% of the time, you have a problem. Yes. And you can track this now with Fireflies or Otter.
We've been doing that.
Yeah, and you can look back and go, oh my God, I spoke so much on that call. If you can actually get them to speak more than 60% of the time and just ask very intelligent questions.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's been super eye-opening. I had one of the girls on my sales team, we started using Fireflies. And so essentially it's this AI thing that jumps in on your Zoom and it tracks your whole conversation, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at her numbers and she was talking significantly more than the prospect. And I was like, like this has to flip. So what are you doing? Why are you filling the gaps? Why are you filling the silence? Because the selling happens in the silence. And also it's like, we kind of need to think of it as like, we're spotlighting whoever's talking has the spotlight on them. So if I'm talking the whole time and I'm trying to sell you on something, we do it because we feel uncomfortable, right? I think it's like we don't want there to be silence.
And that positions you as below peer.
Yeah.
Because you're in a position of self-defense, justification, proclaiming, filling in the awkwardness. But if they're filling in the awkwardness, they're justifying.
They're shifting in their seat.
Yeah, so you literally flip it so that they're the one that has to sell you.
Yes.
And that's where we try to lead the conversation of like, why do you think we're a good fit for you? Why do you think you're a good fit for us? What are your goals? Do you know what they are? If your goals aren't clear, I don't know if I can help you. So we literally have a conversation where it's a bit of we're not trying to be disrespectful. We're just trying to say, like, we're not needy of you. Yeah. You're maybe more in need of us. Let's kind of, for lack of terms, interview you to see if you're a good fit for us. And if you flip the language from, I can't wait to work with you, to let's put a plan together and see if we're a good fit. We don't work with everyone. If you have these more above peer conversations, you get respect, you get altitude. Yeah. We
position our whole sales process as an audition process.
Oh, I like that. That's a nice
So
way
we're
to say
like,
it.
hey, when I was doing sales calls, they didn't even get to me until they'd done an initial 15-minute call with one of my team, and she would ask them, why now? Why us? What are your challenges? What are your goals? Like really qualifying questions. And then they'd get to me and they were like, I hope that, and not in a manipulative way, but they were like, maybe she'll want to work with me.
Yeah.
And it was like, sincerely, I don't want to invite you in to work with me if I don't think I can help you. So it's me not being a dick.
Yeah.
But the energy is different because it's like, I can be composed in the sales conversation because I'm going, cool, I'm just here to see if I can help. If I can help, I'll make an invitation. But if not, there's been plenty of people where I've been like, hey, you're not quite ready for this yet. And let's circle back in a couple of months. And people actually respect you for that because they're like, oh, there's integrity. I think we need to not think of it as icky. It's actually like, no, I have integrity in my sales process because I'm not just going to take anyone's money. So I think that switching, flipping the script from I'm the starving artist who needs validation. I need people to love my work. And we all have those moments, but it's like, actually, no, I'm pretty good at what I do. And I love the above peer language. I think that that's so helpful for people.
Yeah, it's not saying I'm better than you. It's just saying I know stuff you don't know.
Yeah.
And the audition concept is great because I think, you're giving yourself power and altitude, and that's attractive to a client. What's repulsive is if you're trying to drop your price, if you're coming across as needy, you're trying to get the deal done that day. There's a sense of confidence and prestige if you hold true to your values and you're like, this is our price point. If you can't afford it, that's okay. Like, I understand. That's just not what we do.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that conversation's turned into, well, hang on, like, how can we make this work?
Yeah.
I was like, well, we can find a way, but our price won't change.
Yeah. It might just be, we'll give you a payment plan, or I've had clients go, I cannot afford this. I'm going to figure out how to borrow money and make it work.
Yeah.
And those clients actually end up doing the best because they're like, I'm scrappy. Like, I'm going to get it done. And it's like, I love those people who go, cool, no, because of the sales process and because of the brand, they go, no, you're my solution. I know I'm going to work with you. It's just a matter of when and how I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had a funny story where a woman, she sold her car to work with us, and I told her not to. She did. And now she has her dream career in New York, and she's making unfathomable money. But, like, I've had stories where people have had no business working with me, but they've just really wanted to. And I've tried to terminate them and say, well, you're not ready for this. This is not the right time. But you get those people with the entrepreneurial spirit. And I think it becomes very alluring if you're just out of reach and they can find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, you mentioned earlier that when you started, you were like a $20 logo or a business card or whatever. How have you done this jump from, like, for me, when I started, I was like, I will work for brunch. Like, I worked with cafes and I'd be like, I'll do your stuff. Like, if you pay me in brunch, I'm good. So, like, how did you go from that shift of, I am kind of the starving artist in a way, to, no, now I'm, like, people may not be the right fit to work with me. Like, I am auditioning them.
Yeah, I think it happened pretty early on. So I have a big background in sales. I'd worked in retail, I've worked in tech, I've worked in MLM, direct sales, door knocking, like, you name it, cold calling. I've done everything. I think understanding the laws of sales is really what's helped me get to where I am. And for me, I don't look at it as like a dirty word. For me, sales is like, you have a problem that you're trying to solve. I certainly would like to exchange, income for the problem I solve for you. I think when I started to realize how significant business owners' problems really were with creativity, I started to realize that how little solutions they have. Because even if they go to Fiverr or Canva or use AI or whatever, it's not actually solving their problem. And I talk to people all the time. I had a guy come up to me at a kiosk recently and he said, hey, AI designed my packaging. What do you think? And I actually dismantled it and told him all the problems he had with it. And at the end of it, he's like, how much, man? Like, how do we work together? Because I think, there's solving or ticking the design box, but then there's actually looking at the deep roots of the problem. And I think the deeper I went into people's problems, the more I could create value around what I was doing. So people were happy to pay thousands of dollars. In the first few months, I was charging, 5 to 15 grand for, like, content creation packages per month. People were happy to put them on retainers. I think if you can get the right attention in the right community, you can certainly do well. I know a lot of designers target startups. Target mid-sized businesses. Startups are some of the most challenging people to sell. And also, they're the most difficult to present ideas to, and they have a lot of free time, so they'll, try to challenge you on every decision you try to make. Whereas someone who's busy in business has the budget, wants this off their plates and wants you to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So I think if you just move up the market, you might feel a little bit uncomfortable talking to a business owner, but it's just getting comfortable with that exchange. And for me, it was just creating content, generating interests, and getting people on the call. Because I look at it as though, if you can get 12 contacts, you can get 1 appointment. If you can get 5 appointments, you can get like someone to actually consider a contract. If you get 2 contracts, you'll close one of them. So we're talking about 120 contacts. We don't need 10,000, 20, 30,000 followers to do this. You just need 120 people to go, I might consider working with them. And for me, that was just creating content and getting them on a call and then just rinse and repeating. Once I had the numbers to the point where I was at capacity, I just started to increase my numbers. So every time we kind of hit capacity, I would increase our total cost by 25, 30%. So the rule of thumb, I think, for designers is that if you're closing, let's just say 40 to 50% of your deals, you're in the sweet spot. If you're closing more than 50% of the deals, you're probably charging too little. If you're not able to get to 50% close on the appointments or the contracts you're presenting, then maybe you have a sales challenge or maybe you have a price challenge. But usually if you're closing a lot, it means you're good at selling, but it means you're charging too little. And I meet designers that close 8 out of 10 deals.
Yes.
And I was like, you need to double your pricing. Yeah.
Most of the people that I coach, they're like, oh, yeah, no, sales isn't my issue. I close 80%. I'm like, okay, so pricing is your issue because we actually want a little bit of pushback, but I think it's funny that we specifically as creators, we don't want pushback. We don't want the rejection.
Yeah.
And so
we take it personally.
We do.
You
We're
don't
like,
want to work with me.
this is my work.
Yeah.
Why don't you love me? But I think that idea of going, sales is it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Rejection is part of it. If you think, 40 to 50% is a really nice spot.
Yeah.
50% are saying no.
Yeah.
And so if we're not comfortable with that, we're not going to lean into increasing our prices or having more sales conversations because we're going to avoid the no. And then if we just get stuck in this money in, money out, I feel like I'm working all the time. I feel like I'm working with loads of clients for low ticket and I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Yeah.
And it's usually self-justified because the business owner might say, and this is where business owners are great at negotiating. I could go to Fiverr. Why would I hire you? My brother-in-law could do this. Yeah. Like, it's like, sure, but like, why are we on a call right now?
Yeah.
If you wanted to work with them, why aren't you working with them? And I'll say this on a call. They're like, oh, my brother-in-law is cheaper. I'm like, cool. Like, how come you haven't worked with him? Oh, he's lazy. Is this and that? Okay, cool. Like, do you think I'm those things? No, I think you're great. I think you're amazing. Well, this is my price point. But I think if you can get comfortable at 40%, you're going to make twice as much money for half as many clients. And that's, in my opinion, usually the biggest hurdle for designers is just getting comfortable with that.
Yeah.
They know what they need to do. It's just getting comfortable with the silences, getting comfortable with the rejection and just being like, hey, it's cool. It's like, I'm not for everyone. Just decide I'm not for everyone. And then you get to cherry pick the projects you do and don't want to work on. And if you really want a project, just do it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you really, really want it, that one project, just do it for free, and build a great contact and try to network. And I've done that in my career and it's paid off.
That's a really cool idea of going, I'd rather do something for free than do something discounted.
Yes.
So I think that's actually a really cool way to think of it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how, because we're talking about sales, but I want to talk about like the step above that, like getting clients from your content because you're amazing at this and you've built this amazing personal brand. What do you think, well, firstly, what's the correlation that you see between building a personal brand and landing clients? Because you've got an agency, but your primary driver of that agency clients is your personal brand in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So why do you think that works right now?
Yeah, I think there's a couple layers to this, so I'll do my best. I think the first one is what we call the rent-a-crowd effect. And that essentially is that you have to admit that 98% of your audience will never buy from you.
Yeah.
That's okay because that 98% will tell the 2% who might consider buying from you. So when we make content, I'm trying to think about what is the mass challenge in my niche that I solve and how do I give it away for free? Because people go, well, I don't want to give away my best stuff for free. And it's I don't want my competitors to know what I'm doing, all the rest of it. But what you do is you break it down to so many tiny pieces that they don't know the order to put it in. But you're solving these little problems. And what people will pay you for is access to have you help them do it or have you guide them along the way. With content, I try to go, how do I actually help the 98% for free and give them as much valuable information that I possibly can in little bite-sized pieces and just sprinkle it in different orders. Because what I find is that if my content actually solves a problem and actually helps people have an aha moment, that's what we're always hunting is how do we give people goosebumps and aha moments with content? So they watch something, they swipe through something, they read it, and they're like, ooh, I didn't know this, save, comment. If you're giving away your best material, what happens is it forces you to create new material. Because once you've given away your 10 best pieces, you're like, now what? I got to go read some books. I got to go learn some more stuff. So it kind of forces you to self-perpetuate your own growth and develop more anyway, because you'll run out of stuff to talk about and then you got to go learn new stuff. I think for content, if you look at content as like a funnel, and we've broken it into 5 stages. And the first stage at the very top is what we call passive. So people might stumble across your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube channel, your podcasts, and they might be passively observing like, oh, what's this all about? That's about as far as the relationship goes. The next tier down from that is now they're observant. They're not passively looking side-eyed. They're like watching. They're like, what is this all about? Who is this person? What are they teaching? They start asking questions. Then the next tier down is engaged. Now they're commenting. Now they're saving. Now they're featuring you in their stories and they're percolating you through their community, right? And this is all free, valuable, driven content. When you start to give them more value than they feel they're giving you, this is where we talk about you're at the connected stage. When they go to your page every day and they're like, I can't wait for the next post, can't wait for the next pod, I can't wait for the next piece of information from this individual. That's when they're connected. They're actually like ready to buy something. If you had a podcast or a book or, if you had a course or a book or something that you could actually sell them, they'd be willing to buy. The last stage is a fan. Someone who's going to drive 6 hours to hear you speak, someone who's going to hope you sign their book one day, someone who relentlessly listens to all your podcasts and consumes every content piece and comments on everything, like that super fan. Instagram for me is that funnel. How do I get as many people from passive to connected as fast as possible and as many people as possible? And there's 7 ways to go viral.
Yeah.
The challenge with viral is it's just a lot of people passively paying attention. Just because a piece of content goes viral doesn't mean they're a fan. Doesn't mean they're connected. Doesn't mean they're even observant. They just really liked one piece of material that Instagram's pushed into the platform. So for the way I look at it, it's how do I get as many people to go down this funnel to feel connected to me as possible? Because once they're connected, then you get the DM, then you get the booking, then you get the appointment. And I think if you're trying to hide your content behind a paywall or you reserve your best material, then your content's not going to be as potent as it could be. And I think that if you can get comfortable giving away your best stuff for free in bite-sized pieces consistently every day for 90 days, you're going to get people feeling connected and then they're going to want to book you in.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as I could really muster it, because I think that's as simple as it gets. Like, give value for 90 days or more consistently. The algorithm will start to like you. The community will start to grow. Your fan base will start to percolate. And then the word spreads around town. It spreads around the internet. Yeah.
I think that's such an important mindset for people, because that is something that comes up a lot. A lot of people say to me, oh, but Laura, like, I don't want to give away too much value.
Yeah.
How do I know how much value to give?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am not concerned about that. Not one piece of me is concerned about that, because people, if I think about myself, I could see all of your content in the bite-sized pieces, but I would go, I'm not going to trawl through all your content and figure it out and piece it together like this, like mush together
it's
puzzle.
Like you're Tom Cruise in the Minority Report, putting the puzzle together. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not going to do that because I'm busy.
Yeah.
And so it's like your actual person will go, oh, Dain knows what he's talking about. I'm just going to figure out how to find some time with him. And I feel like too many of us, it's like a bit of a scarcity mindset, I think, where we think, oh, well, no one's going to buy from me if I give them all my stuff for free.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, are you giving them any reason to buy from you right now?
Yeah, the argument is like, well, if it's that good, prove it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if it's that miraculous, go viral with it, give it away and like get all the attention, because attention is everything. I think reserving your best material for the sales call, you know, like how we talked about 120 contacts right down to like, you know, one sale.
Yeah.
I think it's like, well, if that one person gets access to your material and thinks you're great, maybe they're a fan. But what about the other 120?
Yeah.
They're just going to forget about you and move on. Like, how
Yeah.
do you get all 120? If they don't buy from you now, they at least are talking about you, spreading you around the internet.
And I think we need to stop thinking in the immediate.
Yes.
We so think, oh, if they don't buy from me this week,
Yeah.
they're never buying from me.
Yeah.
And it's like 80% of people are not ready.
Yeah.
They're not now buyers. That's fine.
Yeah.
So why not add loads of value? I think about it like if you're a musician, you don't put out your first single and go, like, let's say you're producing an album. You don't put out your first single and go, I'm going to reserve the best songs for like
Later in my
track
career.
8.
Yeah.
Track 8 in this album. And so if they can like go through it and find the song, then that's
Yeah.
the song. No, they're putting their best stuff out first.
Yeah.
And then, they're not waiting till, I'll save that for album number 2 or album number 3. It's like, no, put your best stuff out first. Like,
Yeah.
like get people to actually know who you are
Yeah.
and to like you and see your best work.
Yeah, and then even with the competitors, like, you know, they're like, oh, what about the competitors stealing my IP and all the rest of it? It's like, well, cool. Like, if they're stealing from you, they suck anyway,
Yeah.
right? They don't have their own stuff. And also, like, most of the time, competitors think you're dumb anyway. They're going to think whatever
Yeah.
you're doing is stupid. Like, I get criticized all the time from competitors. They're like, oh, I don't understand his content, all the rest of it. But I think, yeah, if you can outgive the competition, you can out-earn them. And that's the rule that we play by is like, how do we give more than any agency in the Asia Pacific for free on social media every day through podcasting, content, YouTube content? How do we just out deliver and give everything away for free? Because if you can amass attention and take people through that funnel to become connected or a fan, then there's way more people that are going to buy from you. It's like heating up popcorn. You can heat up one piece of popcorn or you could try to heat up the masses. And we're like, how do you get everything to turn into popcorn? And that's by giving it all away for free. And there's proof of this. Like if you look at Alex Hormozi, he's broken the internet. He went online, he did this free webinar. I think Canada had like 480,000 people watching him live.
Crazy.
And then he was doing his sales pitch at the end of the 2 hours. And he's like, all right, guys, like you're going to get this usually worth this and this usually worth this. And he was doing the price stack, the Russell Brunson stack.
Yeah.
And then he goes, it's all yours for free. Here's a link. Broke the internet. Everyone was talking about it in my community for months.
Yeah.
And now everyone's looking at him as the next guy. Like, you know, so I think he's literally giving it all away for free.
Yep.
But he's blowing up his acquisition company. He's blowing up his school. Everyone wants to work with him. Everyone's trying to get him on stages. I think he's just basically given the whole world his recipe. But he's still seen as the guy who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people underestimate the relationships and the brand equity that is built. And Alex Hormozi is an amazing example of like, he just his whole thing was, I have nothing to sell you. And it's like, that was his whole thing of like, I'm going to add way more value than the people who are selling something to you.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's no longer good enough for us to be like, here's a little something. And then, as you said, put the best stuff behind a paywall. It's like, actually, people can find stuff if they want to. They can find it on YouTube. They can find it on Google. They can go to ChatGPT or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's actually, well, why do people buy? Are they buying, like, they're kind of buying your energy. They're buying your brain. They're buying what Dain does, what Laura does. It's different. And so like someone will buy from you for a different reason than maybe what they buy from me. And so it's like, I don't know if it's just that we have to get over the scarcity thing.
I think there's a mix. It's a cocktail of things. It's fear mixed with, you know, people are going to steal from me, mixed with, is my content really good? Like there's a lot of unearthed material. And I think what happens is I challenge people, put your best stuff online and see if it works.
Yeah.
They put it online, no one cares. And they're like, huh, now what? It's like, well, go learn more stuff. Go experiment, go play with different things. And we've had people that have worked with us that have gone from literally no followers to, you know, 25, 30, 40,000 K in like 3 or 4 months and built entire businesses behind it. And I think the new era right now is people are looking online at people who are not necessarily experts, but at least enthusiasts. Like who's the biggest enthusiast about what I'm trying to do? Because I think if we try to add the label to ourselves, like I'm trying to be an expert, then you get the imposter syndrome, then you feel awkward, then you're like, I'm not really the thing. But if you're just like, I'm the biggest enthusiast, people can buy that. So I was just early days, I'm like, I'm the biggest carousel enthusiast. I'm the biggest content creation enthusiast. Now I'm the biggest brand enthusiast. And now people are like, inviting me on stage as one of the leading experts or authorities in Australia, but I never told them to say that. I just delivered consistently as an enthusiast, and then the market decides you're an expert.
Yeah.
So if you can be that good that the market tells you what you are, then you've succeeded. And I think that, for people that are fearful, there's an incubation stage of what we call 90 days. Because here's what happens if you're awkwardly producing sporadical content, like 2 pieces a week or here and there, and you're stopping and starting. If you actually put yourself on the runway and produce something every single day for 90 days, 2 things happen. You realize that your material mostly sucks. You realize that you have to level up, which is cool. And then you realize that your original perfect plan doesn't work.
Yeah.
So then you actually get into the work and you get into a rhythm. And what happens is Instagram loves rhythm. If you're posting every day around a similar time and they're seeing your community go from 2% engagement to 3% to 4% to 5%, what do you think the platform's going to do?
Yeah.
It's going to say, well, this community love it. Let's branch it out and allow it to be seen by more people. You got to get into a very fierce rhythm on social media, on most platforms, for them to take you seriously. But then if your community see you show up every day, what happens after 3 months? You're always at the top of their feed whenever they go in. They're like, oh, what's she posting now? And this is how you build brands. This is how you build trust. This is how you build reputation. But for me, it seems like the first 90 days, people want an immediate reward literally in 2 weeks. Like I get phone calls. Oh, it's been a week. I've been posting every day. Nothing's happening. It's like, okay, well, post every day for 90 days and then call me back.
Yeah.
Because what happens is at the end of month 1, people always do an audit and then they change their method. Then by month 2, they're like, oh, these 2 posts worked really well. And then they rotate. And I think if you can get in that rhythm, your brain, the second thing that happens, starts to look for content.
Love that.
Because if you start observing what works for others and you start producing stuff that doesn't resonate with your audience, but if one piece of content does well out of 30, you're like, well, what did I do there? How do I duplicate that? And I've had guys post every day for 90 days and on day 89, something goes viral.
Cool.
And then their whole business is built off that one post. So I think it's so much more about just producing it, giving it away, being consistent, and then just showing up and then trying to figure out how do I get people to fall in love with my content by giving them freebies or doing webinars. Like, how do I actually just continue to give above and beyond the content? Can I give them downloadables? Can I give them a webinar? Can I give them a podcast? What else can I give away? Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for you around, you've built this, what have you got now? Like over 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I swear last time I looked at your profile, you had like 200,000.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know how you've done that. So I'm curious. So we're sitting around 43K followers right now.
Yes.
And we've just started posting every single day.
Yeah.
Like in the last 30 days, I was like, I'm doing 75 hard, but for content.
Yes.
And was like, I'm posting, if I miss a day, I have to start from scratch again. So I'm like, I don't break my little chain.
Yeah.
That's how I had to like gamify it for myself. What would you be doing if you were like, okay, you're posting every day. What are the things that you're doing that are the viral qualities that would take, for me, I'm like, I want to get to 100K followers.
Yes.
What would you be looking at in the content? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this question so it's not just help me.
That's okay. No, like I get where you're going. So I think a few things. Number one is that you got to understand what viral is. And you got to remember that viral doesn't equal money. It doesn't equal followers. It doesn't equal fans. It's just the algorithms plastered you like across the whole internet, which is great. It might get a lot of observers.
Yeah.
But for me, what makes something go viral, if you look at the trend, it's usually, and I've had great chats with Matt Purcell about this, it's usually one of 7 things. First being sex. Sex gets attention. It's primal. People pay attention to it. And Matt talks about if you're walking down a street and you see someone gorgeous, it's got your attention, right? And this is why at the advent of TikTok, a lot of people were dancing, a lot of people were following these pages.
Yeah.
Not going to go deeper than that. 2 is like dangerous. So this is where you see like GoPro's content where people are hurtling out of space or flying down the side of a mountain and you're seeing the camera look over the ravine. Like danger gets attention.
Yeah.
3rd is things that are strange or peculiar or weird. This is when you open a TikTok and you're like, what is happening? But then you watch to the end and go, oh, that was stupid. And then you swipe on past.
Yeah.
But the weirdness or the oddity gets your attention. Then you have things that are more like familiar. This is like memes. So I have children and my partner and I send memes back and forth about what it's like to be a parent. Like, this is familiar. Toddlers always do this. Like, it's that familiarity, relatable stuff. Then you have things that are like prolific or like amazing. Like, this is where you see Simon Sinek present like a very prolific or incredible idea. And you're like, whoa, I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Things that change your perspective was what I call prolific. Then you have things that are like inflammatory. So like, Andrew Tate or Donald Trump or someone who says something that you're like, oh, that's offensive. And then it creates an argument in the comment section.
Yeah.
So these things will likely make something go viral, but how do you do that as a content creator for a design agency or what have you? So this is where you can start a video off by talking about the dangers of something in business, or you can talk about something prolific that they've never thought about before, or you can tell them a story, or you can highlight something that's aspirational, like something that they desire. So you just got to think about how do I dive into the actual deep emotion of a human being? So when they see the content, they're not just learning something, they're actually feeling something.
Yeah.
That's the first tier. The second tier is if someone's watching content right now, my guy on my media team, Cabe, was explaining me this to me the other day. And he was saying that if someone watches a 90-second reel and like 5 seconds of that 90 seconds is shit.
Yeah.
He's like 10% of your reel sucks.
Yeah.
How do you make every second of the reel a banger? So that it's not edited in a way where there's filler words, there's ums, there's ahs. Like how is it just straight out the gate amazing?
Yeah.
This sounds like an obvious one, but if you actually go watch your videos and try to trim the seconds that are wasteful.
Yeah.
What we've noticed now with Reels in particular on Instagram and TikTok is that 20 to 30 seconds is more ideal.
Yeah.
It used to be the AIDA method. So let me get their attention, generate interest, go to their desires, and then the actionables. We skip the A and the I, and now we just go straight to desire and action. So how do I go straight into what they desire and then give them the action tips right away?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the rhythm on social platforms now, the attention span is even smaller because of TikTok. People don't give you a minute. If you watch your Reels, they usually have a drastic drop-off about 15 seconds in. But if they're watching it and they're halfway through at 15 seconds, they'll give you another 5 or 10 seconds because they see the bar go across. So there is a dopamine hit associated with that. But if they're in a video and they glaze down and they look at, they're only 10% into the video and they're like, it's cool, but like what else is happening? You know what I mean? So
they're going to exit. Yeah.
Have a shorter video, go straight to the point, straight to the actionable, and then close it.
Yeah.
Because then if it's an action-filled 20 seconds, they might watch it 2 or 3 times. So then the numbers go up. So what we've found is that people don't want 90-second reels. They want it to be very short, very snappy. That's been my experience. You'll still see 90-second reels go viral, but we've tested the shorter format and it seems to be performing a lot better for us for reach on all platforms.
That's really cool. And one thing that's funny is I've tried even 7 seconds of B-roll with me like text over the top.
Yeah.
And if it's iPhone crappy B-roll versus beautiful, lovely aesthetic stuff, the crap iPhone stuff with, hey, this is how I did X.
Yeah.
And that's that desire thing right away. That makes a lot of sense. Those perform really well because they keep looping.
Yeah.
Because it's 7 seconds and they're like,
it 3 or 4 times.
I can't read it fast enough.
Yeah, they're like, I intentionally speak fast now because it's like, I want them to watch it 2 or 3 times. And this is us trying to like gauge the algorithm. Like if you look at my Instagram right now, we're in experimentation phase. Like we're testing this, testing that, testing stories, testing tips, testing different editing formats. And as of today, we've found one that worked really well. And they were like, okay, that's the sweet spot. How do we repeat that? But for you, I would say like when I was analyzing your feed, I think what I would love to see more from you in particular, and again, don't allow me to bone pick you too hard. I think getting to the point faster and try to give something that's a little weird or a little like catch them off guard a little bit.
Yes.
Have them think what's happening right now.
Okay, cool.
So you'll notice Vin Zhang does this really well. At the start of his video, you're like, what is he doing? He's got a card. Like this, there's a reason that you want to continue to watch. And they teach this in Toastmasters. Have a thing to get them to ask questions. If it's too formulaic, they don't have any questions to ask themselves. But if something's happening in the shot, they're going to ask questions.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And also I think because we batch a lot of content, it can start to feel really samey.
I feel like that's what's happening on your feed.
Yeah.
Is that there's a lot of samey stuff.
Yeah.
But if it felt like, you were touching different notes.
Yes.
And you were doing different things and mixing it up. Because we find when we film in batches, we get in the same humps.
It starts to,
So we do content sprints. So we'll film like 4 or 5 things and then a couple of days later film 4 or 5 things. Because there's so much happening in my life that like daily I'm getting ideas and daily I'm checking different things. So I think I'd like to see more variety.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see you shorten it and give like really punchy anecdotes, and you're a hilarious, fun person. I think really bring that through a bit more. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that.
Because I was looking at your stuff where you're being silly or funny, and it seems to do really well. Where you're really kind of letting your hair hang out and you're just being you.
Just being like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. When you're a bit more refined, it doesn't hit as hard, I don't think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. No, this is really good.
I don't mean to hyperanalyze you. I was having a look because people usually ask me this question. I was like, let me be prepared.
I appreciate it. I'm always using this as like a mini coaching. What I want to do is I want you to give us the vibe of the book that you've written, because all of your insights, I feel like we could talk for a really long time about all the insights, but I want you to give anyone listening kind of the elevator pitch of this book, because I think it's really, really going to help a whole bunch of people who are listening. So what's the book about, and like who is it really for?
The book is for anyone who's looking to deploy themselves as a personal brand, either digitally or in the real world. Mm-hmm. So actually look at the strategies slightly different. If you want to be a someone in your career or in the real world, or a someone online as an impressionable brand, the book will help.
Yeah.
It's built around the 5 core problems that we identified, and we did a survey, and over 890 people responded to the survey. And when we summarized them, and shout out to Cam who did all the work, there was actually 5 things. There was 890 different ways of communicating it, but these were the 5 things that everyone was asking for. What's my niche? How do I figure out what my thing is? Mm-hmm. How do I create products and sell them and monetize my thing?
Yeah.
I'm scared. How do I overcome my fear? 4 is, what about if I don't have money, time, or resources? How do I do it anyway?
Yeah.
And the 5th thing is, how do I get a bit of a roadmap or a strategy to actually go and do it? So the book is engineered in a way where I open it up with my story about how I met Gary Vee and what we did with Culture Kings, right through until, from the very genesis right through to where we are today.
Yeah.
So I bleed a little bit of my story in at the first 2 chapters, but as the book unravels, we've included illustration. And the book is, for me, it's a giant illustration metaphor mixed in with templates of things people can go do every chapter. So each chapter touches on a point, like how to overcome fear, and then there's an exercise at the end. And the next chapter has like how to create your niche, and then an exercise in the end of how to do it. Each chapter has a QR code with videos and resources attached to it that are completely free.
Amazing.
So essentially, whoever buys the book is also getting an online course and assets and resources. And the whole idea of the book is to help people go from, I'm afraid, I don't have money, time, or resources, to day 90, I've established a company, I'm generating revenue. And we've tested this on people for the last 4 years. And every single person who's done the program that I've injected into this book has made more than 6 figures in their first 6 months in their business.
Amazing.
It's not a guarantee, but I've furiously tested this system for 5 years, and now I'm comfortable releasing it in the book format. Yeah.
It's so cool because I feel like even the way you talk and communicate, you speak in models and systems. Mm-hmm. And I feel like those are my favorite books to read, because it's like, oh, I did this thing and, maybe you could try it, versus here is the strategy and here is this is the framework for you to follow. And I feel like that's so helpful, especially for creatives, because we kind of need visuals to help us to
It's hyper visual. So I haven't really released any of this, but the first chapter essentially bleeds into my story. Then by chapter 3, we talk about the metaphor of creating a brand is kind of like lighting a fire. Mm. And every time you add a piece of content, it's like adding a log to the fire.
Cool.
Are you adding flakes, logs, or trees? What are you adding to the fire? Because the bigger your fire gets, the more you have to bring some seriously good content. Yeah. Then what happens is, if your fire is good enough, people start to gather around and hang out. That's your tribe growing. And then over time, you need to then create additional resources for your tribe to stay. You can't just have content in a fire. What are they going to eat, which is your product suite? How are they going to consume it, which is you break it into a buffet, like the different tiers of your products. Cool. So everything's very visual. It's kind of funny. I'm very slapsticky and weird and kooky in the book. So it's like a fun read, because I've read a lot of books where it's just the metaphor doesn't really exist, but I tried to make it very visual, very illustrative. There's diagrams, there's systems and frameworks, and it's just, it was a hell of a lot of fun making it. Yeah.
I'm so excited. Now, I know it's available now, so where can people get it?
Yeah, if you just go to Amazon.com and type in the 90-day brand plan, it comes up. It's on Booktopia, it's on Dimmix, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's everywhere. Yeah.
So good.
And it'll be on Audible later in the year, so grab a physical copy because that's all we got at the moment.
Love it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple of I've got 3 rapid fire questions for you. What's the best investment you've made in your business?
Ooh, I haven't had that question before. The best investment I've ever made in my business is probably myself.
Yeah.
Because I think that if people get comfortable where they're at, their business plateaus. I think whenever I've grown as an individual, my business grows with me. And I think I am always trying to outgrow where my business is at. In the beginning, I was a freelancer, then a sales guy, then a manager of a small team. Then I had to kind of be a creative director and then a general manager, now a CEO. Now I'm moving into like kind of the founder role where the system runs itself. And then beyond that for me is actual entrepreneurship. I think, investing into yourself with whatever suits you. Some people it's books. Some people hate books. They like mentors. Some people hate mentors and they like to do programs. It doesn't matter. Don't let people judge you. Like whatever gives you a sense of growth and trajectory, definitely try to invest in yourself. And I've spent a lot on myself and my education to be able to do this. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I reckon that that's the best because I do think your business it's personal. Whether or not you have a personal brand, it's a personal development journey anyway. Yeah. So it's like, well, if you're good, the business is good.
Well, to the point where I could say with absolute confidence, if the agency collapsed for whatever reason, I could build this thing again in 3 months.
Yeah.
That's how confident I am.
That's so good.
Which sounds aggressive, but I knew I could raise capital. I know I could build this thing back up. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have been able to do that 5 years ago. Yeah. Had I not invested in myself, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it 90 days per the brand plan of your book?
No, I think 90 days is a long enough time where you can get a hell of a lot done. And a short enough time where you don't get burnt out, like it's a nice sprint.
That's good.
It's a nice little marathon. Yeah.
What's one thing business owners need to stop doing?
Asking what their friends and family think.
Oh, yeah. I like that one.
Yeah. I think so oftentimes we seek consult from those that comfort us. We need to seek consult from those that make us feel uncomfortable. We need to go out of our circle and above peer and consult with people that have done what we want to do. So oftentimes I see business owners go to their friends and family and their friends and family give them whatever advice and they've never done it before.
Yeah.
It's like, what's a truck driver or someone who roasts beans got to do with branding? Like, what? No offense to them. I'm sure they're great at driving trucks and roasting beans, but like, what do they know about branding?
Yeah. Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors talks about this. He talks about stealing beliefs from people.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
So if someone listening to this or watching this could steal a belief that you have that's allowed you to get to where you are today, what would be the biggest belief that you think they should steal?
Everything's your fault.
I like that one.
It's a discomfortable, sorry, I've lost my vocab today.
You're fine.
It's an uncomfortable idea. I think if you literally take responsibility for everything that's happening in life, you gain the power to do something about it. Because we can do this on another pod. I've been through, in and out of foster care. I've been in and out of domestic violence. I've been in and out of bullying and abuse and all kinds of other things. But I think, where you could say that, oh, that wasn't your fault, Dain. I'm aware of that. But like when you can actually say everything that's happening in my life right now is because of me, then you gain the power to do something about it. Because otherwise, if you're constantly giving your power to external things, it's my boss, it's my partner, it's my bank account, it's this, it's that, then you're not able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
When you wholeheartedly embody everything happens because of me, the universe kind of gets out of your way. Things start happening. I really believe that. And anyone who's taken that from me has done very well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So much value. Where can people connect with you? I know so many people listening will be like, Dain, I need more of your wisdom. Yeah. Where can people connect with you on Insta?
So I'm super active on there. I'm active on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel. But yeah, just send me a DM. I actually reply to everyone personally. My team manage my LinkedIn and my other platforms, but Instagram is actually me. Follow me, send me a DM. I'll chat to you.
Thank you so much for joining me.